The Great Hall of the Galactic Assembly was the largest building ever made. It floated in space between 3 stars, and ships from 100 different worlds came and went every hour. Inside, 1,000 alien species had gathered for 12,000 years to make laws and keep peace across the galaxy. Captain Sarah Chen stood very still. Her uniform was dark blue with gold buttons, and her black hair was tied back tight. She stood behind Admiral Victor Okonkwo, watching everything with sharp eyes. The Admiral was a tall man with gray hair and dark skin that showed his 60 years of life. His back was straight like iron, and his hands were folded behind him. They were the only 2 humans in the room. Around them sat aliens of every shape. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some were made of light or crystal, or things that had no name in human language. The Valith were the oldest race, and their high speaker stood at the center of the hall. He was tall and thin, made of something like blue glass, and when he spoke, his voice filled every corner of the room. "The matter of the human petition is now closed," the speaker said. "The request for a permanent seat on the Security Conclave is denied." Admiral Okonkwo did not move. Captain Chen saw his jaw tighten, just a little. This was the 9th time. 9 times humanity had asked to be treated as equals. 9 times they had been told no, but they had expected this. What came next, they had not expected. The Valith speaker raised one long arm. "The Assembly will now vote on Resolution 7,741, the Human Containment Act." A cold feeling spread through Chen's chest. She saw Okonkwo's shoulders go stiff. "Humans have proven to be an unstable species," the speaker continued. "Their expansion is too fast. Their technology grows too quickly. Their behavior is too unpredictable. For the safety of all Assembly members, human ships will be restricted to their home system. No human vessel will be permitted beyond the boundary of their star. Trade will continue through approved channels only." The words hit Chen like a physical blow. They wanted to cage humanity, lock them in their own solar system, like animals in a zoo. She looked at the aliens around them. Many were nodding. The Drexari, with their 4 arms and armored bodies, looked pleased. The Morthax, floating in their water tanks, showed no expression. The Fenari, small and covered in golden fur, would not meet her eyes. 60 years. Humanity had been part of the Assembly for 60 years. They had followed every law. They had paid every tax and tariff. When the Assembly needed soldiers, humans had volunteered. When there were disasters, human ships were first to help. And this was the answer. Admiral Okonkwo turned his head slightly. His eyes met Chen's. In that moment, something passed between them. No words were needed. They both understood. The Admiral stepped forward. His boots made a sharp sound on the floor. The hall went quiet. Every alien eye turned to look at him. No one had ever interrupted a high speaker. In 12,000 years, it had never happened. 60 years, Okonkwo said. His voice was calm and clear. It carried across the vast chamber like thunder across an empty sky. 60 years, we have been members of this Assembly. We have obeyed your laws. We have paid your fees. We have bled and died in your wars." He paused. The silence was complete. "We came to you in peace. We asked only to be treated with respect, to be seen as equals." His voice grew harder. "And your answer is a cage. Well, see and emotions. We have grew vidi about now." The Valith speaker moved forward. "Admiral, you will return to your seat. This behavior is not. No." The word was like a door slamming shut. "I will not return to my seat. I will not watch my people be locked away like dangerous animals." Okonkwo straightened his uniform. The medals on his chest caught the light. "Earth hereby withdraws from the Galactic Assembly. This decision is effective immediately. We no longer recognize the authority of this body over human space, human ships, or human citizens. The chamber exploded in noise. Aliens shouted and screamed. Some laughed. The Fenari delegate called out something that Chen's translator turned into foolish children. The Drexari commander made a gesture that meant death in their culture. But Okonkwo was not finished. "You have made a mistake," he said, and now his voice was quiet but somehow more dangerous. "You have looked at us and seen something small, something weak, something to be controlled." He shook his head slowly. "You were wrong." He turned and walked toward the exit. Captain Chen fell into step beside him. Their boots echoed in the chaos behind them. As they reached the great doors, Chen heard the Valith speaker call out, "You cannot survive without us. You are one species against the galaxy." Okonkwo did not stop. He did not turn around. But Chen saw a small smile cross his face. "We shall see," he said quietly, for her ears alone. The doors closed behind them. They walked down the long corridor to the human shuttle. Neither of them spoke. There was nothing to say. Everything had changed in a few minutes. When they reached the shuttle, Okonkwo finally stopped. He looked out the window, at the stars. His face was tired, but determined. "They think we are children," he said. "They think we need them to survive." Chen nodded. "They are wrong, sir." "Yes." Okonkwo turned to her. "They have no idea what we have been building, what we have been preparing. They see us as we were 60 years ago. Small, weak, desperate for their approval." His eyes were hard as stone. The shuttle launched from the assembly station. Behind them, 1,000 alien voices still argued about what had just happened. Some called it madness. Some called it suicide. Some were already planning how to punish the rebellious humans. None of them understood. Captain Chen looked at the admiral as they flew toward the human fleet waiting in the distance. Okonkwo was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was steady and sure. "Now we show them who we really are." The shuttle joined the fleet. 20 human ships turned together and jumped into faster-than-light travel. They disappeared from the assembly's sensors in a flash of blue light. The galaxy had dismissed humanity for 60 years. That time was over. 3 months had passed since the walkout. The galaxy had laughed at humanity. A single species from a single star system, thinking they could survive alone. Every news channel across 1,000 worlds made jokes about the foolish humans. They predicted Earth would come crawling back within weeks, begging for forgiveness. They were still waiting. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of her ship, the UES Defiance. It was a new kind of vessel, one the assembly had never seen. The hull was black and smooth, built in secret shipyards hidden in the asteroid belt. Weapons that the assembly did not know existed were mounted along its sides. Engines that could outrun anything in the galaxy hummed with power. She looked out at the stars and smiled. On the main screen, Admiral Victor Okonkwo appeared. He was calling from Fleet Command on the moon. The facility had been built underground, invisible to assembly sensors. Behind him, Chen could see dozens of officers working at their stations. "Captain Chen," Okonkwo said, "your new orders are ready." "I am listening, Admiral." Okonkwo leaned forward. His eyes were bright with something that looked like excitement. "For 60 years, we played by their rules. We showed them only what we wanted them to see. Small ships, simple weapons, slow progress." He paused. That was a lie. Chen already knew this, but hearing it still filled her with pride. While humanity had pretended to be weak, they had been building. Hidden stations in the Kuiper Belt, far from any alien eyes, had produced technology that the assembly could not imagine. Scientists had worked in secret, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. "The assembly thinks we are alone," Okonkwo continued. "They think no one will help us. But they forgot something important." He pressed a button, and a star map appeared on Chen's screen. Red dots marked dozens of locations across the galaxy. Chen studied the map. The quarantine zones. Yes. Okonkwo's voice was heavy. The assembly has rules about who can join them. Species must be old enough, calm enough, safe enough. If a species does not meet their standards, they are locked on their homeworlds, forbidden from leaving, forgotten by the galaxy. Chen felt anger rise in her chest. How many? 47 species. Billions of people trapped on their own planets, because the assembly decided they were not worthy. Okonkwo shook his head. Some have been quarantined for thousands of years. The galaxy pretends they do not exist. And my mission? Find them. Talk to them. Show them that someone remembers. Okonkwo's voice grew firm. We are going to give them a choice. Stay in their cages, or join us. The Defiance left human space 2 days later. Chen commanded a fleet of 12 ships, all built in secret, all faster and stronger than anything the assembly had. They traveled beyond the mapped regions of space, into areas the assembly had marked as forbidden. The first world they found was called Taraxis. The people there had 4 legs and bodies covered in hard shells. They had been quarantined for 6,000 years because the assembly found them too aggressive. Chen landed alone on their world. She walked into their capital city without weapons or guards. The Taraxians surrounded her, confused and suspicious. No outsider had visited them in thousands of years. Their leader was old and tired. He looked at Chen with eyes that had seen too much disappointment. Why are you here? He asked. The assembly does not allow contact with us. Chen smiled. I am not from the assembly. I am human. The leader stared at her. Left? No one leaves the assembly. We did. They tried to put us in a cage, like they did to you. We refused. For a long moment, the Taraxian leader was silent. Then, slowly, he began to laugh. It was a rough sound, like rocks scraping together. But it was real laughter. You told them no, he said. You actually told them no. We did. And what do you want from us? Chen looked around at the watching crowd. Thousands of Taraxians had gathered to see the strange visitor from the stars. I want to offer you a choice. You can stay here, forgotten, locked away forever, or you can come with us. Help us build something new. Something better. The leader studied her face for a long time. The assembly will try to stop you. They have ships, armies. They have controlled the galaxy for 12,000 years. I know, Chen said. We are not afraid. 3 weeks later, the Taraxians joined the human coalition. Chen gave them ships and technology. She showed them how to build the hidden engines that could outrun assembly patrols. For the first time in 6,000 years, Taraxian ships flew among the stars. The Defiance continued its mission. More worlds, more forgotten species. The Krell, who had been quarantined for growing too fast. The Vonix, whose telepathy made the assembly nervous. The Sandari. The Morthine, the pale ones of the dark nebula. One by one, Chen found them and gave them the same choice. Most of them said yes. Admiral Okonkwo watched the reports come in from his command center. Each week brought news of another species joining the coalition. Each week, their alliance grew stronger. His aide approached with a concerned look. Sir, the assembly has noticed our movements. They are asking questions. Okonkwo nodded slowly. Let them ask. They will have their answers soon enough. What do we tell them? The Admiral looked at the star map on his screen. It was filling with friendly lights. Dozens of species, hundreds of ships. An alliance built not on fear, but on hope. Tell them nothing, Okonkwo said. When the time comes, we will show them everything. Far across the galaxy, Captain Chen stood on the bridge of her ship and watched another world join their cause. She thought about the assembly and their perfect order, their careful control, their absolute certainty that nothing could challenge them. They had forgotten the most important rule of the universe. The powerful always forgot it. until it was too late. The hungry never stop fighting, and humanity was very, very hungry. 1 year after the walkout, the Drexari came to Earth. The Drexari were the Assembly's fist. They had 4 arms, armored bodies, and a love for war that had made them feared across the galaxy. When the Assembly needed someone punished, they sent the Drexari. When a species needed to be reminded of their place, the Drexari reminded them. 800 warships appeared in Earth's solar system. They were massive vessels, bristling with weapons, their hulls dark as death. They formed a wall between Earth and the stars, blocking every path to freedom. Admiral Victor Okonkwo watched them arrive from the bridge of his flagship, the UES Terra's Fury. It was the largest ship humanity had ever built, but it looked small compared to the Drexari fleet. Around him, officers worked at their stations, their faces tight with tension. "Admiral," his communications officer said, "the Drexari commander is broadcasting on all frequencies. Put it on screen." The face of a Drexari appeared. His name was War Master Krexal, and he was famous across the galaxy for his cruelty. His armored face showed no emotion, but his 4 hands moved constantly, eager for violence. "Humans," Krexal said, "your foolish rebellion is over. The Assembly has sent me to bring you back where you belong. You will surrender your fleet. You will return to the Assembly. You will accept whatever punishment they decide." His voice grew cold. "Or I will burn your planet to ash and use your bones to decorate my ship." Okonkwo let the silence stretch for a long moment. Then he opened a channel to Captain Sarah Chen aboard the Defiance, which waited hidden behind the moon. "Captain, are they ready?" Chen's voice came back calm and steady. "They are ready, Admiral. All of them." Okonkwo turned back to the screen. War Master Krexal was waiting, confident in his power. "War Master," Okonkwo said, "I must tell you something. You have made an error in your calculations." Krexal laughed. The sound was harsh and ugly. "What error?" "I have 800 ships. You have fewer than 50. The math is simple, human." "Yes, the math is simple." Okonkwo smiled slightly. "You just used the wrong numbers." He nodded to his officer. "Send the signal." For a moment, nothing happened. Then space itself seemed to crack open. Behind Jupiter, ships began to appear. Not human ships. Not any ships the Drexari had ever seen. Ships from worlds that had been forgotten. Ships from species that had been caged for thousands of years. Taraxian battle cruisers, their hulls covered in spikes and armor. Vonix carriers, sleek and silver, humming with telepathic energy. Krell destroyers, built for speed and violence. Sandari gunships, Morthene frigates. Vessels from 17 different species, all flying together under one banner. 3,000 ships against 800. War Master Krexal's face changed. For the first time in his life, he felt something he had never felt before. Fear. "What is this?" he demanded. "These species are quarantined. They are not allowed to leave their worlds." "They were quarantined," Captain Chen said, her ship moving to the front of the combined fleet. "The Assembly decided they were too dangerous, too aggressive, too unpredictable." Her voice was hard as steel. "Sound familiar?" The Drexari fleet was surrounded. Ships from a dozen worlds moved into position, weapons ready, waiting for the order to fire. Okonkwo stood tall on his bridge. "You came here to teach us our place, but we have already learned it. Our place is among the stars, not asking for permission, not begging for scraps from the Assembly's table. Our place is anywhere we choose to go." He pointed at the screen. "You have 2 choices, War Master. You can fight. Your ships are strong. Your warriors are brave. But you are outnumbered 4-1 by species who have spent thousands of years learning to hate the Assembly. You might destroy some of us, but we will destroy all of you." The Drexari commander said nothing. His hands had stopped moving. "Or Okonkwo continued. You can leave. Go back to the assembly. Tell them what you saw here today. Tell them that humanity is not alone. Tell them that the galaxy they thought they controlled is changing. The silence stretched across space. Millions of weapons were pointed at the Drexari fleet. Millions of fingers waited on triggers. The moment hung like a knife over everyone's throat. Warmaster Krexel was many things, but he was not stupid. He could see the numbers. He could read the tactical situation. And he could see something else in the eyes of the ships facing him. These were not frightened refugees. These were hunters who had finally been freed from their cages. This is not over, Krexel said. His voice was thick with anger. The assembly will not accept this. They will come back with more ships, more warriors. Maybe, Okonkwo said. But not today. Today, you leave. The Drexari fleet turned. 800 ships moved away from Earth, their weapons going dark, their engines burning bright. They flew past Jupiter, past the edge of the solar system, and then they jumped into faster-than-light travel and were gone. A great cheer rose from the human coalition fleet. Ships from 17 species celebrated together. For the first time in 12,000 years, the assembly's enforcer had run away. Captain Chen's face appeared on Okonkwo's screen. She was smiling, but her eyes were serious. They will be back, she said. I know. Okonkwo nodded. But now they know what they are facing. Now they understand that we are not alone. What happens next? The admiral looked out at the fleet around him. Ships from worlds that had been forgotten. Species that had been told they did not matter. All of them flying together under the banner of the human coalition. Word of this will spread, he said. Every species in the assembly will hear what happened today. The quarantined worlds that we have not visited yet will hear. Everyone will know that the assembly can be challenged. That their control is not absolute. He turned back to Chen. Across the galaxy, the story traveled faster than any ship. The humans had built an alliance of the forgotten. The humans had faced the Drexari and made them retreat. The humans had done what no one had done in 12,000 years. They had made the assembly afraid, and they were only getting started. 2 years after the walkout, the Galactic Assembly was falling apart. Admiral Victor Okonkwo stood in his office on Luna, reading the latest reports. Every day brought new changes. 12 species had left the assembly to join the human coalition. Trade routes that had been stable for thousands of years were shifting. The assembly's economy was cracking like old ice. The news from the quarantine zones was even better. Species that had been locked away were escaping. Some joined the coalition. Others simply wanted freedom. Either way, the assembly's careful control was breaking down. A knock came at his door. Captain Sarah Chen entered, holding a datapad. Her uniform was crisp and clean, but her eyes showed the tiredness of months of hard work. Admiral, she said, the assembly has made contact. They want to negotiate. Okonkwo raised an eyebrow. Negotiate? Not demand? Their exact words were, request a diplomatic meeting to discuss the current situation. Chen smiled slightly. I think they are scared. The admiral stood and walked to his window. Outside, the gray surface of the moon stretched to the horizon. In the distance, he could see the lights of the growing coalition fleet base. They should be scared, he said. Their whole system is built on control, on making everyone believe that the assembly is the only path to survival. We have shown that is a lie. What do we do? Okonkwo was quiet for a long moment. We could ignore them. Let the assembly continue to crumble. In another year or two, they might collapse completely. But that would cause chaos. Millions of innocent people would suffer. Wars would break out across the galaxy. He shook his head. We did not do all of this just to replace one kind of suffering with another. Chen nodded. So we meet with them. Yes. But not on their terms. Okonkwo turned to face her. We do not go to the assembly station. We do not act like children asking for permission. If they want to talk, they come to us. They come to Earth. The response from the assembly took 3 days. They agreed. For the first time in the history of the galaxy, alien delegations traveled to a species that had been called juvenile. Ships from 20 different assembly members entered Earth's solar system, their crews nervous and uncertain. They landed at a special site that had been prepared near the old United Nations building in New York City. Admiral Okonkwo and Captain Chen met them on the landing platform. The day was warm and sunny, with blue sky stretching above them. Birds sang in nearby trees. Human children played in a park across the street. The Valeth High Speaker stepped off his ship first. His crystalline body caught the sunlight, throwing rainbows across the ground. He looked around at the human city with an expression that might have been surprise. "Admiral Okonkwo," the speaker said, "this is not what I expected." "What did you expect?" The speaker was quiet for a moment. "Weapons, soldiers, a fortress." Chen gestured at the city around them. "This is what we were fighting for. Not conquest. Not power. Just the right to live our lives in peace." Other delegates were stepping off their ships now. The Fenari, small and golden, stared at the human children with wide eyes. A Morthax in his water tank floated past a group of teenagers who waved at him cheerfully. Even the Drexari representative, a younger officer who had replaced the defeated War Master Krexel, seemed uncertain in this strange and peaceful place. The meeting took place in the old United Nations building. It was a simple room. Nothing like the grand hall of the assembly station. But that was the point. Humanity had nothing to prove. They did not need impressive buildings to show their power. Admiral Okonkwo stood at the front of the room. The alien delegates sat before him, waiting. "You wanted to cage us," Okonkwo began. "You looked at humanity and saw something dangerous, something that needed to be controlled. In a way, you were right." The delegates shifted uncomfortably. "We are dangerous," Okonkwo continued. "Not because we are violent or cruel. We are dangerous because we do not accept limits that others try to put on us. We are dangerous because we believe that every species has the right to reach for the stars. We are dangerous because we remember what it feels like to be told we are not good enough." He looked at each delegate in turn. The assembly forgot what it was like to be young, to be hungry, to be told that you do not belong. You built a system that kept yourselves comfortable and kept everyone else down. "We maintained peace," the Valeth speaker said. "For 12,000 years, there has been stability. Stability for some, cages for others." Okonkwo shook his head. 47 species, locked on their homeworlds, because you decided they were not worthy. Billions of people who will never see the stars because they did not fit your rules. The room was silent. "We do not want your assembly," Okonkwo said. "We have built something better. The human coalition does not have masters and servants. We do not have worthy and unworthy. Every species has a voice. Every species has a choice." Captain Chen stepped forward. "This is not a negotiation for us to rejoin you. This is an invitation for you to join us." The Valeth speaker stood, his body glowing with emotion. "You want us to abandon 12,000 years of tradition? Our entire system of government? I want you to ask yourself a question," Okonkwo said. "In 12,000 years, how many species have you helped reach their full potential? How many have you lifted up instead of pushing down?" No one answered. "The galaxy is changing," Okonkwo said. "The coalition will continue to grow, with or without you. More species will leave the assembly. More will join us. In time, you will have a choice to make. You can hold on to your old ways and watch them crumble. Or you can change. You can become part of something new." Rons. He straightened his uniform. "The choice is yours. But do not take too long to make it. The future does not wait for anyone. Do." The meeting ended. The delegates returned to their ships. Some were angry. Some were thoughtful. Some were already wondering if maybe, just maybe, the humans were right. As their ships lifted off, Captain Chen stood beside Admiral Okonkwo and watched them go. "Do you think any of them will listen?" she asked. Okonkwo smiled. "Some will. The younger ones. The ones who remember what it was like to dream of something better." He looked up at the sky, where stars were beginning to appear in the evening light. "And for those who will not listen, we will simply keep building, keep growing, keep showing them that there is another way." The galaxy was changing, and nothing would ever be the same again. 5 years had passed since the walkout. The old Galactic Assembly existed now only in history books and memories. Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UES Horizon. It was a massive vessel, larger than anything humanity had built before. But it was not alone. Ships from 43 different species flew alongside it, their hulls painted with the symbol of the Coalition, a circle of stars with no beginning and no end. Chen had changed in 5 years. Her hair showed traces of gray now, and lines had formed around her eyes. But her back was still straight, and her voice was still strong. She had earned every bit of the rank she now wore. "Admiral," her communications officer said, "we have arrived at the memorial site." Chen nodded and looked out at the view. They had come to the place where the old assembly station had floated. The station was gone now, dismantled, piece by piece, and rebuilt into something new. In its place was a simple monument, a ring of lights representing every species that had ever been quarantined, every people that had ever been told they were not worthy. Today was the 5th anniversary of the walkout. Ships from across the Coalition had gathered to remember and to celebrate. A familiar voice came through her personal communicator. "Admiral Chen, permission to come aboard?" She smiled. "Permission granted, Victor." 20 minutes later, Victor Okonkwo stepped onto her bridge. He looked different now. His uniform was gone, replaced by simple civilian clothes. His hair was completely white, and he walked with a slight limp from an old injury. But his eyes were still sharp, still full of that fire that had never dimmed. He had retired from the military 3 years ago. Now he taught at the academy on Earth, training young officers from a dozen different species. He said he preferred shaping the future to commanding it. "Your bridge is impressive," Okonkwo said, looking around. Officers from 5 different species worked at their stations. A Taraxian handled weapons. A Vonix managed communications. A human, a Fenari, and a Krell worked together at the navigation console. "It is not my bridge," Chen said. "It belongs to all of them. I just happen to be in charge." Okonkwo smiled. "That is exactly the right answer." They stood together at the main window, watching the memorial lights pulse slowly in the darkness of space. "I have been thinking about the early days," Okonkwo said. "When we walked out of the assembly, everyone said we were fools. They said we would be crushed within months. I remember. They did not understand." He shook his head slowly. "They thought power came from ships and weapons. They did not understand that real power comes from giving people something to believe in, something worth fighting for." Chen thought about the past 5 years. The Coalition had faced many challenges. There had been battles. There had been losses. Some assembly species had tried to stop them, to restore the old order. They had failed. But the Coalition had never tried to conquer anyone. They had never forced a species to join. They had simply shown another way. And one by one, worlds had chosen to walk that path. "The Valeth sent me a message last month," Chen said. "They want to discuss joining the Coalition." Okonkwo raised an eyebrow. "The Valeth? The same Valeth who called us dangerous children? The same." Chen almost laughed. "Their new High Speaker is young. He was just a junior diplomat when we walked out. He says he remembers watching you challenge the assembly. He says that was the moment he knew things had to change." "And what did you tell him?" I told him the same thing we tell everyone. The coalition is not about surrendering your identity. It is not about following human rules instead of assembly rules. It is about standing together as equals. If the Valith can accept that, they are welcome. Okonkwo was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was thoughtful. Do you remember what you asked me that day on the shuttle, after we left the assembly? You asked me what would happen next. Chen nodded. You said we would show them who we really are. Yes. Okonkwo looked out at the gathered fleet. Ships from species that had been enemies for thousands of years flew peacefully side by side. Former quarantine worlds stood equal with ancient powers. I think we did show them. Not just who humans are, but who everyone can be when they are given the chance. A signal came through the bridge speakers. The memorial ceremony was about to begin. Chen addressed the entire fleet. Her words were carried to every ship, translated into 100 languages. 5 years ago, humanity made a choice. We were told to accept our place, to be grateful for what we were given, to stay small and quiet and safe in the cage that others built for us. We said no. She paused, looking at the ring of lights that marked the memorial. But this day is not about humanity. This day is about everyone who was ever told they did not matter. Everyone who was locked away. Everyone who was forgotten. Today, we remember them. And we promise that no one will ever be forgotten again. The lights of 43 fleets pulsed in unison. A moment of silence for everything that had been lost. A moment of hope for everything that was to come. After the ceremony, Chen and Okonkwo sat alone in her private office. The stars shone outside the window, more stars than either of them could count. Do you ever wonder if we did the right thing? Chen asked. Tearing down 12,000 years of history? Okonkwo considered the question carefully. The assembly was built on fear. Fear of the unknown. Fear of change. Fear of anyone who was different. They created a galaxy where the powerful stayed powerful, and the weak stayed weak forever. He looked at her with eyes that had seen so much. We did not tear down history, Sarah. We built something new. Something that does not need fear to survive. Something that lifts people up instead of pushing them down. And if it fails, if the coalition falls apart someday, then someone will build something better. That is what we showed the galaxy. That nothing is permanent. That every system can be changed. That the hungry and the forgotten can rise up and reshape the universe. Chen smiled. That sounds like hope. Chen, it is hope. Okonkwo stood and walked to the window. Hope is the most dangerous thing in the universe. The assembly spent 12,000 years trying to control it, trying to stamp it out, and they failed. Because hope cannot be killed. It can only be shared. Outside the window, ships from 43 species flew together through the stars. Humans, and Taraxians, and Vonics, and dozens of others, all moving toward the same future. The galaxy had trembled when humanity walked out of the assembly, but it was not because humanity was strong. It was because humanity showed everyone else how to stand up. And once people learned to stand, they never kneel again.